Hi everyone, and welcome back to Module 2 of Games-Based Learning in Schools. In Module 2 we're talking about using games for thematic learning. In the last video we talked about thematic and project-based learning in the context of the Olympics, or more specifically Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. And in this short video we're going to be taking this idea further, but we're going to be thinking about thematic and project-based learning in the context of Star Wars. This is a slightly more abstract concept. And the reason for that, of course, is the fact that teachers have been doing projects on the Olympic Games for many years, and therefore the step and the transition to teachers doing projects on Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games is probably a lot less than a teacher really thinking about Star Wars and how could we use that as a theme for project-based learning and to develop a contextual hub. That said, there are lots of obvious links, of course, to Star Wars, for example, the study of space, but there are also some other less obvious ones as well, which we'll maybe just explore in a minute. In the projects and the schools that I've done Star Wars work with before, we've tended to use Lego Star Wars. There are two reasons for this. One is that Star Wars is contextually relevant in itself. The other is that Lego is contextually relevant in itself, but also in particular Lego Star Wars tends to have a lower PEGI rating than some of the other Star Wars games that are on the market. So here are a few examples from different Star Wars activities that we've done in classes over the years. This is a similar activity to one that I described in the Mario and Sonic example, where young people are playing the game. Remember that part of being part of a contextual hub project is actually children playing the game and thus thinking about how we can gather data from the game. You can see here we've got a child that's not only appears to be very, very captivated with what's going on, but has also got a pen and pencil, who is the reporter and the recorder in this instance. So as the children are playing Lego Star Wars, the other child is collecting some of the data which comes out of the game in terms of high scores, gold coins, time, etc. This data is then owned by the students because they've collected it themselves. It's passed on to the classroom teacher, and the classroom teacher uses this data as a starter for their maths lesson. There's something about the ownership here which is highly engaging for children, and it really motivates them to engage with what otherwise may have been a very traditional maths lesson. Lots of other things that we can do using external resources. Some of these resources are commercial, some of these resources are available free online. Some of these resources you may already have in your schools, but are just thinking about new and innovative ways to do them. If you're interested to think about Star Wars as a context to teach coding, then code.org has a whole section on Star Wars where you can control BB-8 and R2-D2 to solve puzzles in terms of different coding exercises using block-based programming language. If you're interested in the idea of getting kids to build computer games, we're going to talk more about that in Module 5. I mentioned BB-8 and R2-D2 there because, of course, Star Wars also gives us a great and rich opportunity to teach about things like robots, to teach about things like artificial intelligence, to teach about things like space, planets, survival, and lots of other topics that can be linked to the Star Wars universe. If you've got Sphereos at your school, you might be interested to know that the popular BB-8 toy is also based on a Sphereo, and that gives us opportunities to think about not just the construction of toys, but also again how we might program these robots to behave in a way that we would want them to behave. Lego have got a product which is called Lego Boost, and the new Lego Boost Droid Commander set has just come up, and here you can build 3 different types of robots, and you can program and you can code this in your own way using a script which is very, very similar to Scratch Junior. If you've got some of the Lego Education We Do sets at your school, you can find different plans online to build Star Wars related robots. My favourite ones are WeDoBots.com for the older kit and kidsandrobots.es for some of the more modern kits. So again, just the way that we can get kids building, get kids creating, vehicles that look similar to the vehicles that we might find in Star Wars. But of course, one of the other things that we can do with Lego or similar products is we can get kids to design their own spaceships so they can go on their own adventures as well. There's also other things that we could think about in terms of different environments. So for example, if you're planning to teach a unit on the rainforests, we can use a Star Wars theme to say actually this is going to be a unit on Endor. Or if you're thinking about teaching a unit on the Arctic tundra, then this could actually become a theme about teaching on Hoth, the ice planet that we saw in The Empire Strikes Back. If you're thinking about teaching a project on deserts, this could quickly become a theme about Tatooine and the different desert landscapes that you might find there as well. So lots and lots of ways that we can introduce Star Wars into the classroom. I'll just finish with a final photograph. This is a professor from Heriot-Watt University in the United Kingdom, in Edinburgh in the United Kingdom. He's a professor in artificial intelligence, and he was invited into a primary school where they were doing a project on Star Wars, and he was asked all sorts of questions on artificial intelligence and robots. So again, Star Wars projects, just like any thematic project, give us a great opportunity to bring experts either physically into the classroom or digitally into the classroom using products like Google Hangouts or Skype in the classroom, so that again we can share that expertise between teachers, between pupils, and between experts. So a few examples there about how you might consider using Star Wars as a contextual hub for learning, which obviously includes gameplay as well. But why don't we get you to think about not how you might use Star Wars, but how you could think of a different film, a culturally relevant film like Star Wars, and how that could be used potentially to be part of a contextual hub project within the curriculum. It might just be a film you're thinking about, but remember, many films also have computer games that are associated with them as well. So it could give you a real opportunity here to come up with some new ideas and for things and for future projects. As always, feel free to discuss your ideas or discuss this video in the forum, and don't forget to share your ideas and thoughts using the hashtag GamesCourse online. And look forward to seeing you in the last video of Module 2.